All right, hi there. Now we're going to take a look at while statements. While statements are another form of conditional statement in programming languages, often referred to as while loops. So the difference between a while loop and an if statement is that whiles say, while this condition is true, continue to repeat the block of code associated with it. So whereas an if statement makes a decision one time and decides whether or not to work with this code block, and then you move on after that. A while loop says when you get to this code block, stay here forever until this condition is no longer true. So there's a lot of really interesting things to consider when working with while loops. So let's take a look at them and we'll play around a little bit. And again, we're going to look at this in both Python, JavaScript, and Java. Let's start this time with Java. So we have, very similar to the if statement video, we have a variable initialized to the value 8. And then instead of if, so we could have had a if x is 7, but this time instead we're saying while x is 7. So this means as long as x is 7, execute this code. Now the interesting thing is we don't need any kind of else statement anymore. You can kind of imagine a while like a big pit, and you throw somebody into this giant pit and they're trapped down there until they get a ladder to get themselves out of the pit. Well, if you later see them outside of that pit, you can conclude they must have gotten a ladder. So in this case, I know that while x is 7, I'm going to be trapped in this code block, which means if I'm past the code block, x must no longer be 7. So let's run it and test it. We'll play around with it and see different ways it can work. Remember, x is 8. This says while x is 7, which it's not. So it should just skip this line and go down and print x is not 7. So we'll try running it, and our output is x is not 7. Let's change it now so that x is 7. And remember, it's going to get into this code block, it's going to execute it, and then it's going to go back and check that condition again and see if it's changed. And since x is 7 and we have no way to change it, we are going to get trapped in what's called an infinite loop. So you can see the program just keeps running. If you look at the bottom of the screen here, you can see it just keeps printing and printing and printing this message. So let's stop it. And I could scroll up for you. You can see me drag this bar here. There is a whole lot of those statements. So infinite loops can be a big problem in programming. So there's a general rule of thumb that you need to apply anytime you make a while loop, and that is you have to have a way to get out of the loop, and that way out of the loop has to be inside the loop. So the only way out of the loop is for x not to be 7, which means we need to give it a way not to be 7. So we can go into the loop and assign x a new value. For example, if I assign it 8 and I run this program again, it will, well, let's let it get booted up first. Hold on. I think it's running all the way at the bottom, so maybe I have to scroll down so we can see it. There we go. It said x is 7. It was in the loop. Then it changed to 8. It got to the end of the loop, went back and checked the condition, which was now false. So then it skipped all this code and printed x is not 7. Now, that's kind of boring, though. Maybe we can find a better way of doing this. So rather than just assign the value 8, let's get some user input. Now, in Java, we need a scanner to do that. So let's make a scanner at the top, right up here. Scanner sc equals a new scanner, which is going to scan from system.in. That is the standard input or the keyboard. And in order to talk to scanners, we need to make sure that we import the scanner library. So import java.util. You can see the tooltip trying to help me figure out what it is I want to bring in. Scanner, I can click to finish it. And then down here, we're going to say sc.nextInt. So that's going to tell the scanner, go get the next int. And let's put a little prompt in here just so that we know it's time to type in. So system.out, print line, enter a number. All right. So enter a number, and we're going to get trapped in this loop. But now there's a way out. The person at the keyboard can type a number to try to get out of the loop. So we'll run it. And it says, because we initialize x is 7, enter a number. How about 7? And now we are in this loop still. Now I can keep typing 7 as long as I want, and I'll be trapped in this loop as long as I want. But as soon as I type a number that's not 7, I will exit the loop. So while loops are great for running when you don't know how many times you need it to run. For example, if you were asking a person on a website to enter a password and you're not sure if they're going to get it right the first time, there might be a loop there that allows them to keep trying until they get it right, or maybe they've used up all of their attempts. Now let's take a look at this while loop in other languages. So we'll switch over to JavaScript, and we already have it more or less built. Let's run it. There's our infinite loop condition. Let's give ourselves an input. So in JavaScript, we say prompt, which puts a message to the screen and takes input in. Enter a number, and we want to make sure that that number that gets taken in is assigned to x, because x is the thing we are checking in our condition. If I don't change x, my condition doesn't change. So in fact, let's do that once, where we put in the prompt and we run it. So x is 7, enter a number, 7, enter a number, enter a number. But now if I hit 8, it doesn't change. And the reason it didn't change is even though I'm allowing for the user to enter something in, I'm not assigning it to x. So let's change that. Oops. X equals the result of prompt. Now when I run it, I should be able to hit 7, and it'll stay in the loop. But as soon as I type 8, I'm out of the loop, because now I have assigned the value to x. The next time x is checked in this condition statement, it's no longer a true Boolean statement. So we skip the code block associated with the while loop and come down to this print statement. Now let's try one last time in Python. So we got, let's see, x is not 8. Let's make it 7. We get our infinite loop again. So we're confirming that the while loop behaves the same in every different language. We'll put our input statement in here. Input, enter a number. We run it. Enter a number, 7, 7, 7, 8. But, well, let's get that tooltip window away. It's not changing. So this is the same problem we ran into JavaScript. We got to remember to assign the value. So x equals. Let's try running it again. 7, 7, 7. Oops. Let me try that again. All right, so enter 7, 7. Now it says x is not 7. Well, wait a second. That's a little bit strange. I'm assigning the value to x. I gave it a number, I put it in, and now it is not working. So we're running into a different issue here. And this issue is a little bit more unique to Python. Python is more of a dynamic language, which means it doesn't make us determine the type of information it's storing up at the top. When we have an equal sign here and there is an integer on the right side, Python goes, oh, x is an integer. I will check it against integers right now. But when we do input right here, input gives us a string. So it is checking for strings, like normal text, like a sentence. So if we were to change this a little bit, and let's put 7 in quotes, and let's put 7 in quotes here. Let's try it out again. I'm not sure if this will work, but we'll see. X is 7, enter 7, and now it is staying, right? If I type 8, it gets me out. But I don't really want x to be the text 7. I want it to be the number 7. So we have to do a little bit of data manipulation here, and this is going to take a little bit of casting. Uh-oh, I'm getting all frozen up. So you might remember in an earlier video where we talk about data, we know that casting is the process by which you can take a piece of information and say treat it like a different type. So even though I'm taking input that is text, right? This line is taking in text. So if I type 7, it's taking in quote 7. What I can do is convert it to something else. So let's just be real explicit about this, and I'm going to put this the entered text. Entered text. All right. So the entered text is the string 7. on the next line, what I can do is say x equals, and I believe it is int, or is it maybe integer? Integer, or int maybe? We'll try it with a lowercase I, int, and entered text. Let's see if that does it. So now what I'm doing is saying take this entered text and just treat it like an integer, and then store that integer as x. So let's try running it. X is 7, enter a number, 7, 7. So now it looks like it's working the way it was originally intended to. And we put 8, and it no longer works. All right, so there is a quick introduction to while loops. This is to be used when you are not sure how many times you're going to repeat a process. And the most important piece to keep in mind is that a while loop always needs an escape route. So somewhere inside the loop has to be a way out, and your way out is by changing an element that is inside the condition. All right, bye now.